The holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across Dr. Maya Patel's face as she stared at the genetic sequence floating before her. 3 months of sleepless nights had led to this moment, but instead of triumph, she felt a creeping sense of dread. The sequence was wrong. Not damaged or mutated, deliberately engineered. She leaned back in her chair, her dark eyes reflecting the scrolling data. The genetics lab at the International Human Genome Research Center in Singapore hummed with the quiet efficiency of late-night operation. Outside her window, the city's gleaming towers pierced the night sky, but Maya's attention remained fixed on the impossible pattern before her. "Run it again," she commanded the AI system. "Fold spectrum analysis. Check against all known natural mutation patterns." Her voice remained steady, despite the trembling in her hands. 20 years of evolutionary biology research had taught her to trust data over intuition, but right now, both were screaming that something was terribly wrong. The analysis completed with a soft chime. The results hadn't changed. Within the supposedly junk DNA that made up much of the human genome, Maya had discovered sequences that showed signs of artificial manipulation. Not recent changes. These modifications went back thousands of years, minimum. More disturbing still, they appeared to follow a systematic pattern of progressive alterations, like a carefully managed breeding program. The sound of the lab door sliding open broke her concentration. Dr. Sarah Chen, her research partner, entered with 2 cups of coffee. The aroma of fresh espresso briefly cut through the sterile lab air. "You're still here." Sarah placed 1 cup next to Maya's terminal. "It's almost midnight. What's so fascinating that you're missing your daughter's dance recital?" Maya's stomach lurched. Priya's recital. She'd completely forgotten. "I'll make it up to her," she said quietly, then gestured to the display. "Sarah, look at this. Tell me I'm not going insane." Sarah leaned in, her brow furrowing as she absorbed the data. Her expertise in quantum genetics had been crucial to their research, but even she seemed taken aback by what she was seeing. These markers, they're not random mutations. The spacing, the systematic changes across generations. This looks like someone's been experimenting on us, Maya finished. For thousands of years, maybe longer. She pulled up another sequence. "Look here, and here. These modifications appear in every human population, but they're activated differently in different groups. It's like someone was testing different combinations, seeing which traits would express themselves." Sarah sank into a nearby chair, her coffee forgotten. Who could have done this? The technology required. It's beyond anything we have even now. Exactly. Maya stood, pacing the length of her office. "We're not looking at human technology. We're looking at something else entirely." She paused, turning to face her colleague. "Sarah, I think we've just discovered proof that we're not alone in the universe. And our first contact didn't happen recently. It's been ongoing for millennia." The implications began to cascade through her mind. Every major leap in human evolution, every unexpected acceleration in our development, had they all been carefully orchestrated? Were humans nothing more than an experiment in some vast alien laboratory? A soft alert from her terminal interrupted her thoughts. New data was coming in from their global research network. Similar patterns were being identified in samples from every corner of the Earth. The modifications weren't limited to a single population or region. They were universal. "We need to take this to the Global Science Council," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This changes everything we thought we knew about human evolution." Maya shook her head slowly. "No, not yet." She moved back to her terminal, fingers flying across the holographic interface. "If we're right about this, we might not be the only ones monitoring these genetic markers. Whoever did this might still be watching. We need to be careful about how we proceed." She initiated a new search algorithm, this time looking for active changes, modifications that might still be occurring in the present day. The results made her blood run cold. The markers weren't dormant historical artifacts. They were still active, still being manipulated. "Sarah, Look at this. Maya highlighted a sequence that showed signs of recent alteration. These changes are new, within the last century. Whatever's been doing this, they're still here, still experimenting. A sudden thought struck her. The quantum anomalies your department's been tracking, the ones that seem to defy our current understanding of physics. What if they're not natural phenomena? Sarah's eyes widened as she made the connection. The patterns, they do share similarities with these genetic markers. Both show signs of external manipulation. Both operate on principles we barely understand. Maya began compiling the data, encrypting it with the highest level security protocols available. We need to approach this methodically. If we're right, if someone has been treating humanity like a science experiment, they're not going to be happy that we've noticed. As if in response to her words, the lights in the lab flickered briefly. Both women froze, suddenly aware of how exposed they felt. The comfortable familiarity of the lab seemed to evaporate, replaced by an acute awareness that they might not be alone. First step, Maya said, her voice firm despite her racing heart. We need to establish secure communications with other research facilities. But we do it quietly, under the guise of routine genetic research. No flags, nothing to suggest we found anything unusual. Sarah nodded, already beginning to modify their communication protocols. I'll contact Dr. Rodriguez at Quantum Physics. If these modifications are still active, they must be using some form of technology to implement them. Technology we might be able to detect. Maya looked out at the Singapore skyline, seeing it differently now. Somewhere out there, someone, or something, was watching humanity, had been watching them for thousands of years, playing with their genetic code like children with building blocks. They made one mistake, she said softly, more to herself than to Sarah. They gave us the capacity to understand what they've done. The ability to recognize patterns, to question, to investigate. Maybe those weren't traits they intended to engineer into us, but they're there now. She turned back to her terminal, determination replacing her earlier uncertainty. And we're going to use those very traits to expose what they've done. Humanity isn't anyone's experiment anymore. As she spoke, somewhere high above Earth's atmosphere, in cloaked observation posts that had monitored humanity for millennia, alien sensors detected an anomaly in their long-running experiment. Warning signals began to flash, and for the first time in thousands of years, the watchers felt something they had never expected to feel while observing humans. Fear. High Observer Krelix stood before the Emergency Council of the Galactic Consortium, his crystalline form pulsing with waves of deep red, a clear sign of distress to any who knew his species. The council chamber, carved from living stellar matter and suspended in the void between dimensions, hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 ancient civilizations faced an unprecedented crisis. The humans have detected the markers, Krelix announced, his harmonic voice resonating through the chamber. They've identified the genetic modifications we've been implementing for the past 8,000 years. The admission sent ripples of agitation through the assembled council members. First speaker Vina of the Thesid Collective, her form a shimmering cloud of neural energy, moved forward. Impossible. Their technology isn't advanced enough for such detection. Our models predicted at least another century before they'd develop such capabilities. The models were wrong. Krelix projected a holographic display into the chamber center, showing Dr. Maya Patel's laboratory. They're not following any known development pattern. They're making intuitive leaps that defy our understanding of technological progression. The image shifted to show the encrypted data packets being sent between research facilities around Earth. What's worse, they're being methodical about their investigation. No panic, no rushed announcements. They're carefully gathering evidence and building a case. Director Genre of the Military Oversight Committee rose from his seat, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's ethereal light. Then we implement Contingency Protocol 7 immediately, wipe their recent discoveries, reset their technological progress back 50 years. We've done it before. We tried, Krelix admitted, his crystalline form dimming slightly. 3 times in the past week. Each attempt was deflected. Somehow, they've developed quantum shielding that we didn't detect. Shielding that shouldn't be possible with their current level of technology. Back on Earth, Dr. James Chen, head of quantum defense at the Singapore facility, watched with satisfaction as another alien probe attempt dissipated harmlessly against their newly developed shields. The technology had come to him in a dream, or so he'd thought at the time. Now he wondered if those flashes of insight had been his mind accessing buried knowledge, genetic memories hidden in the modified portions of human DNA. "They're getting more aggressive," he reported to Maya, who was coordinating their global response from her lab. "This last attempt was stronger than the previous ones. They're escalating." Maya nodded, unsurprised. Her team had made significant progress in the past week, documenting thousands of distinct genetic modifications across human populations. Each discovery revealed more about their hidden watchers and about humanity's true potential. "They're scared," she said, studying the attack pattern data. "They're realizing their experiment isn't under their control anymore." "Dr. Rodriguez, how are we doing on the tracking system?" Dr. Elena Rodriguez, appearing on a secure holographic feed from her quantum observatory in Chile, smiled. "Better than expected. Every time they probe our defenses, we learn more about their technology. We've identified 7 distinct observation posts in orbit, plus what appears to be a major facility on the dark side of the moon." In the council chamber, the debate had turned heated. "We should never have allowed the genetic modifications to enhance their problem-solving abilities," argued Representative Exer of the Logic Concordat. "It was a fundamental error to assume we could control the development of such traits." "The modifications were necessary," Krylix countered. "Without them, the humans would have destroyed themselves centuries ago. Their capacity for violence, their tribal instincts, they needed guidance to survive long enough to reach space. And now," Vina challenged, "now they possess both their original aggressive instincts and the enhanced intelligence we gave them. They're becoming exactly what we feared, a species combining primitive violence with advanced cognitive capabilities." The chamber fell silent as a new hologram appeared, showing real-time data from Earth. Humans had begun manufacturing quantum-enhanced materials that could block all known forms of consortium surveillance. More alarming still, they were adapting and improving the technology at a rate that defied all predictive models. "We're detecting unusual energy signatures from their quantum research facilities," reported a junior observer. "They're not just defending against our probes anymore. They're learning from them, reverse engineering our own technology." In her lab, Maya received confirmation that their quantum beacon network was online. Designed by Sarah Chen's team, the network could detect and track any form of advanced technology operating in Earth's vicinity. The data it provided was revolutionary and terrifying. "There are more of them up there than we thought," Sarah reported, her voice tense. "Not just observation posts, ships, dozens of them, using some kind of dimensional cloaking technology." Maya studied the data, her mind racing. The genetic modifications, the observation posts, the hidden fleet, it all pointed to one conclusion. "They're not just watching us," she realized. "They're containing us, like a dangerous specimen that needs to be kept under strict quarantine." At that moment, in the Consortium Council chamber, Krylix made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "We must implement the final protocol," he announced. "The humans have developed too far, too fast. We can no longer risk." His words were cut short as every display in the chamber suddenly activated, showing the same image, Dr. Maya Patel, standing calmly in her lab, looking directly at them through their own surveillance systems. "We need to talk," she said simply, her voice carrying clearly through systems that should have been impossible for humans to access. "About 8,000 years of unauthorized experiments on our species." The council chamber erupted in chaos as the implications became clear. Their subjects had not only discovered them, they had breached the consortium's most secure communications network. Humanity wasn't just advancing anymore. they were breaking free. The quantum display in Dr. Maya Patel's lab showed thousands of connections lighting up across Earth, each one representing a human mind working to unravel the greatest conspiracy in history. 3 weeks had passed since their first contact with the consortium, and humanity's response had been anything but what their watchers expected. No panic, no chaos, no breakdown of society. Instead, humanity had done what it did best: adapt, innovate, and work together when faced with an external threat. Another breakthrough from the Seoul team, Dr. Sarah Chen announced, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. They've decoded more of the genetic markers. Turns out what we thought was junk DNA is actually a backup system. Biological quantum computers encoded directly into our cells. Maya studied the new data with growing excitement. They didn't just modify us, she realized. They accidentally gave us the tools to understand their own technology. Every human on Earth is carrying around pieces of advanced alien tech in their genes. The revelation had come gradually over the past weeks. The consortium hadn't just been experimenting with human genetics. They'd been trying to create a controlled evolutionary path, inserting specific traits and capabilities they thought would develop over thousands of years. But they'd made a crucial mistake. Dr. James Chen, working from the Quantum Defense Center, appeared on a secure holographic feed. The genetic modifications were supposed to inhibit certain developmental paths while encouraging others, he explained. But human creativity found ways around those blocks. We didn't develop the way they expected because we kept finding unexpected solutions. In high orbit, aboard the cloaked consortium command ship, High Observer Krelix watched with growing alarm as human understanding of their own modified genetics expanded exponentially. His crystalline form pulsed with patterns of deep ultraviolet, a sign of extreme distress in his species. They're not just understanding the modifications, he reported to the Emergency Council. They're learning to control them, to enhance them. The quantum processing capabilities we encoded into their DNA as dormant potential, they're activating them centuries ahead of schedule. The council chamber erupted in another round of panic. Representative Exor's logical matrix nearly overloaded as he processed the implications. The genetic quantum computers were meant to remain dormant for at least another 1,000 years. They're supposed to develop gradually, allowing for proper control and monitoring. Humans, First Speaker Vina observed, appear to have little respect for supposed to. Back on Earth, in research centers across the globe, humanity was proving that observation devastatingly accurate. The genetic quantum computers, once activated, gave humans unprecedented ability to process and understand the universe around them. More importantly, they provided direct access to the quantum field that the consortium used for their technology. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading the quantum research team in Chile, made the next crucial breakthrough. The genetic computers aren't just for processing, she reported excitedly to Maya. They're transceivers. The consortium has been using them to monitor us, but that connection goes both ways. We can use them to access their network. Maya immediately grasped the implications. That's how they've been implementing their control protocols all these years. Direct quantum interface with our genetic code. She paused, a slow smile spreading across her face. And now we can use that same interface to shut them out. The next few days saw a flurry of activity as research teams worldwide collaborated on what they called Project Firewall. Using their newly understood genetic quantum computers, humans began building a protective network that would prevent any further external manipulation of their DNA. In the consortium council chamber, the reaction to this development approached panic. They're severing our control links. Junior observers reported. The genetic access ports are being closed off, encrypted with codes we don't understand. Impossible, Krelix muttered, but the evidence was undeniable. Humanity had not only discovered the tools of their manipulation, but had turned those tools into weapons of liberation. Dr. Maya Patel stood in her lab, watching the global quantum defense network come online. Each point of light represented a human being choosing to activate their genetic quantum computer. choosing to join the collective shield protecting Earth from external manipulation. The display looked like a constellation of stars, growing brighter by the second. "They thought they could control our evolution," she said softly, "but they didn't understand what they were creating. Human adaptability, creativity, determination. These weren't traits they gave us. These were traits we developed despite their attempts to control us." Sarah Chen, studying the latest data from their global sensor network, suddenly straightened in her chair. "Maya, you need to see this. The consortium ships, they're moving. All of them." The holographic display shifted to show the positions of the cloaked alien vessels. Dozens of ships, previously holding position in high orbit, were now advancing toward Earth in a clear attack formation. "They're going to try to force us back into compliance," Dr. Rodriguez observed from her feed. "They've realized they can't control us through genetics anymore, so they're falling back on direct intervention." But Maya wasn't worried. She'd been expecting this. "Activate Project Reversal," she ordered, her voice calm and confident. "Let's show them exactly what happens when you give humans the tools to understand quantum mechanics, then try to use quantum weapons against them." As the consortium fleet moved into position, they had no way of knowing that humanity had spent the last 3 weeks not just defending against their technology, but learning to turn it back on itself. They were about to discover that their carefully controlled experiment had developed in ways they never could have predicted. The genetic quantum computers hummed to life in billions of human minds, creating a defensive network more powerful than anything the consortium had ever encountered. Humanity wasn't just breaking free from control. They were about to demonstrate why attempting to cage them had been the consortium's greatest mistake. The consortium's attack fleet descended toward Earth in perfect formation, their quantum drives humming with enough power to reshape continents. High Commander Zexnar, leading the operation from the flagship, felt absolute confidence in their overwhelming technological superiority. After all, how could primitives who had only recently discovered spaceflight hope to resist the combined might of civilizations spanning millions of years? That confidence lasted exactly 6 minutes into the assault. The first wave of quantum displacement weapons, designed to regress Earth's technology by decades, simply vanished into the quantum field surrounding the planet. Not deflected, not absorbed, but completely disappeared as if they'd never existed. In the Singapore Command Center, Dr. Maya Patel allowed herself a small smile as she watched the energy signatures fade from their sensors. "Quantum weapon neutralization successful," Dr. James Chen reported, his hands flowing over the holographic controls. "They're trying to brute force their way through our defenses with raw power." "Exactly as predicted." Maya nodded. "They still think we're using their technology the way they designed it. Time to show them how humans innovate. Initiate protocol mirror." Across Earth, billions of active genetic quantum computers synchronized in a way the consortium had never imagined possible. Instead of processing information individually, they formed a vast neural network, each human mind contributing to a defense system that operated on principles the aliens had never considered. On the consortium flagship, alarms began blaring as their sensors detected something impossible. Their own quantum weapons were being reflected back at them, not as crude copies, but as enhanced versions that demonstrated a fundamental understanding of the underlying physics that even the consortium hadn't fully mastered. "Impossible," Zexnar shouted as the first ships in his fleet began reporting critical systems failures. "They can't have developed quantum reflection technology. They barely understand basic spaceflight." But humanity had done more than just reflect the attacks. They'd studied them, improved them, and turned them into something new. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, coordinating the quantum defense grid from Chile, watched with satisfaction as the alien fleet's perfect formation began to break apart. "They don't understand," she commented to Maya through their secure link. "We're not just using their technology. We're rewriting the rules of how it works. Human creativity combined with quantum computing is giving us possibilities they never imagined." The consortium fleet's second wave of attacks proved even less effective than the first. This time, humanity didn't just reflect the quantum weapons. They absorbed them, analyzed them in real time, and used the energy to power their own defensive systems. Each attack made Earth's defenses stronger, more sophisticated, more uniquely human. In the Consortium Council chamber, watching the battle through quantum feeds, panic had given way to stunned disbelief. They're not supposed to be able to do this. First Speaker Vina insisted, her energy form fluctuating wildly. The genetic modifications were designed to make them predictable, controllable. That was your first mistake. Maya's voice came through their supposedly secure chamber, accompanied by her holographic image. You assumed that because you gave us these capabilities, you'd understand how we use them. But human innovation doesn't follow predictable paths. We see possibilities where you see limits. The negotiations took place in a virtual space created by human quantum computers, a neutral ground that demonstrated both humanity's mastery of consortium technology and their willingness to innovate. Dr. Maya Patel stood as Earth's chief negotiator, her avatar projected into a representation of space that stretched infinitely in all directions, filled with stars that doubled as data nodes in the quantum network. Facing her were the representatives of the Consortium Council, their forms reflecting their various species, crystalline structures, energy patterns, and biomechanical constructs. Gone was their previous attitude of superiority, replaced by a wary respect that bordered on fear. You understand our position, Maya stated, her voice carrying across the quantum space. We have evidence of your genetic manipulation programs spanning not just Earth, but 17 other developing civilizations. Evidence we've already shared with multiple galactic societies. First Speaker Vina's energy form flickered with distress. What you've done is unprecedented. The damage to galactic stability was caused by your actions, not our revelation of them. Maya interrupted. But we're not here for revenge. We're here to establish a new paradigm. She gestured, and the space around them, filled with holographic data showing human achievements since breaking free from consortium control. In the 3 months since the failed invasion, humanity had made technological leaps that should have taken centuries. But more importantly, they'd done it in ways that demonstrated not just advancement, but innovation. They weren't simply copying consortium technology. They were reimagining it, finding applications that had never occurred to their would-be controllers. Dr. Sarah Chen, representing Earth's scientific community, stepped forward. Your fundamental mistake was assuming that control leads to stability. Human history proves otherwise. It's our chaos, our unpredictability, our constant drive to question and challenge that leads to true progress. In the Singapore Command Center, Dr. James Chen monitored the quantum feeds as humanity's demands were presented. They were both simple and revolutionary. Full recognition of Earth as a sovereign civilization, reparations for the millennia of unauthorized experimentation, and most importantly, the right to help establish new protocols for dealing with developing civilizations. You don't understand what you're asking, Krelix protested, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. The protocols for guiding developing civilizations have existed for millions of years. They're proven to be fundamentally flawed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez interrupted, joining the discussion from her quantum observatory in Chile. Your guided evolution program doesn't create stability. It creates stagnation. Look at your own civilization. When was the last time any of you truly innovated rather than just refining existing technology? The silence that followed was telling. The consortium representatives shifted uncomfortably as they realized the truth in her words. Their civilization had reached a plateau, advancing only incrementally over thousands of years, while maintaining rigid control over their society and others. Maya pressed the advantage. We're offering you something more valuable than compliance. We're offering you partnership. Human creativity combined with your technological foundation could open up possibilities neither of our civilizations have imagined. To demonstrate her point, she pulled up data from Project Renaissance, a human initiative that had taken basic consortium quantum principles and applied them in ways that defied conventional understanding. Where the consortium saw quantum fields as tools for manipulation and control, humans saw them as canvas for creation. Your genetic modifications gave us the ability to understand quantum mechanics, Maya explained, but our human nature, our creativity, our drive to explore and question, that's what let us see beyond the limitations you took for granted. In research centers across Earth, humans were already demonstrating this potential. Dr. Rodriguez's team had developed quantum communication systems that operated on emotional resonance as well as logical protocols. Dr. Chen's group had found ways to use quantum fields for environmental restoration, healing damage caused by centuries of industrial development. We're not asking for much, Maya continued, just the freedom to develop on our own terms and the opportunity to help prevent other civilizations from being subjected to unauthorized experimentation. The consortium representatives conferred in their private quantum space, but they knew they had little choice. Humanity had not only proven itself capable of defending against their most advanced technology, but had demonstrated an understanding of quantum mechanics that threatened to surpass their own. First Speaker Vienna finally spoke. Your terms are acceptable, but we have concerns about how other developing civilizations will react to this knowledge. Maya smiled. That's exactly why we need to work together. Who better to help guide the revelation of truth than those who discovered it themselves? We're not interested in causing chaos. We want to help create a more honest, equitable galactic community. The agreement that followed would later be known as the Terra Accords. It established Earth as a full member of the galactic community, but more importantly, it created new protocols for interacting with developing civilizations. No more hidden manipulation, no more unauthorized experimentation. Instead, there would be transparent observation and, when appropriate, open contact. As the negotiations concluded, Maya stood in her lab in Singapore, watching the sunrise through her window. The morning light caught the quantum field generators that now powered much of Earth's infrastructure, making them shimmer like diamonds. They never understood, she said to Sarah, who had joined her to watch the dawn. The very traits they tried to engineer out of us, our unpredictability, our creativity, our relentless drive to question everything. Those were what made us strong. Sarah nodded, checking the latest data from their global quantum network. And now those traits will help reshape the galaxy, not through force or control, but through innovation and cooperation. The quantum displays showed thousands of signals from across the galaxy, other civilizations reaching out to Earth, seeking understanding, partnership, and a new way forward. Humanity had not only broken free from their watchers, they had become something more: teachers, innovators, and living proof that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't control, but the freedom to question, to create, and to chart one's own path among the stars.